Listen, I don't hate this game. If you're wondering what I was on about in the outro of that last episode, well...
It's odd. Ever since I started this show, this game came up possibly most often as a request for me to do, and any research I put into the title beforehand always placed it under the MMO section. So when I did the episode 10 poll, there were quite a few people arguing that this game should not be on there because it was technically not an MMO. This is the first I heard of it, and despite many arguments to the contrary, I left it in place. When it seemed like it had a lock on the victory, people started to warn me about the community, telling me it makes MapleStory look like a group therapy session.
Well, with all these people arguing that this game was not an MMO, I'd have to say that they were absolutely correct. Still, I think you'll find that there's enough here to lead to that kind of confusion. This is the MMO Grinder, and it's time to look at League of Legends.
Developed and published by Riot Games in April 2009, where it remained in closed beta until October of that year, League of Legends is identified as a MOBA, a genre title given to differentiate it from MMOs and other online games. MOBA stands for Museum of Bad Art. No, wait, sorry, I meant Metro Omaha Builders Association. Here we are, Multiplayer Online Battle Arena.
Oh, yeah, that's way more specific.
The genre spawned initially from a StarCraft map known as Aeon of Strife, and later on a famous Warcraft 3 mod called Defense of the Ancients, or Dota for short. The story of League of Legends involves a war that has long ravaged a continent and threatening to destroy the world. In an effort to prevent this from happening, a group of summoners decided to form the League of Legends, an arena-styled battle held in remote locations, in order to stop these neighboring countries to settle their differences on a different type of battle. As a summoner, it's your job to lead your champion and your team to victory. Have I stalled long enough? Okay, let's get to it. One thing you might notice right away is how Warcraft this game looks. Not necessarily World of Warcraft, despite both games sharing an alliterative blank of blank name, I mean Warcraft 3. Really though, it's not surprising when you consider the game that spawned this one was a Warcraft 3 mod. Champion artwork is really nice to look at and reminds me not only of the art from the Warcraft series, but even some Magic the Gathering cards. Much like the game that inspired this one, map sprites are small, but a lot more detailed and animated than the ones that were in Warcraft 3. They also feature a cel-shaded style, but you'd be hard-pressed to really notice it, as it doesn't look cartoony, just giving a bit of black outline to the existing detailed graphics. It is still a very colorful game, with each champion model distinctive enough to recognize on the map at any distance, provided you've reached the almost Pokemon level of memorization to identify every champion's name and playstyle, even with an alternate skin on. Maps, while there are very few, are nice to look at, with Summoner's Rift usually getting retooled for the seasons. There's a lot of nice lighting effects involving both the Fog of War effects and particle effects. Another case of great music being overly hidden, League of Legends doesn't really use music as its driving force. It's unfortunate since the songs are really good, and many of them last well over 8 minutes, but I suppose when an average game lasts 30 to 45 minutes, it's kind of a necessity. There really aren't that many songs to be had, either. Honestly though, this stuff really fades into the background over the cacophony of battle. As sounds go, more often than not, you'll hear the voiceovers of the game's announcer, or the champions themselves, along with your typical battle sounds when you're engaged in combat. The champions' voice clips themselves are actually quite amusing. While they don't have the large range of quotes you'd find in Warcraft or StarCraft, they still have a bit of humor and referential style to them.
Seriously, listen to this clip of Orianna and tell me if she reminds you of anyone.
We will kill your enemies. That will be fun.
All in all, most people choose to listen to their own music when playing this game, and it's a pretty viable option. I had to do some serious hunting just to find enough songs for this video.
Before we start, I suppose this is where I tell you this is not going to be some all-inclusive guide into playing this game. I could not possibly tell you all there is to know about it in a decent amount of time. This game is another one of those minute-to-learn, lifetime-to-master deals, and the only way to really get good at it is to play it. So I'm not going to tell you every champion's playstyle or their ideal build sets. I'm just going to tell you the basics. Alright? We good? Alright, let's start.
This game is a really simple install process, so once again there's thankfully no headache in getting this one to run. Starting out, you need to choose a name for your summoner and an icon to represent you. All this is your basic game account and name, and it doesn't have to match your login name. As a summoner, you might notice that you have an overall experience bar. This fills as you complete games, and the more you play, the higher it goes, until stopping at level 30. You'll notice that you gain points in masteries and unlock rune slots as you level up. Masteries are very similar to the talent trees popular in many MMO games, where you place a point in skills to modify your character in order to build them more to your tastes. You're allowed a few pages of masteries so that you can choose skills that better fit your champions and change them when required. Runes are equipable traits that must be purchased in the cash shop, but luckily can only use the in-game currency influence points to purchase them. Like masteries, you are granted multiple pages to modify what suits your current champion best. One other thing you control as a summoner is 2 spells with high cooldowns that you can use to give your champions an edge in battle, such as a quick healing burst or a short boost to attack. More of these unlock with your level. Okay, this is the basic, very simple, no-nonsense concept of this game. First off, you choose a champion who you wish to play as. Once you've chosen them, they are the only character you'll be able to directly control. There are differing game types, and I'll cover those when I get into community. But as far as the 5 vs 5 Summoner's Rift goes, as well as the most basic idea of the game is concerned, this is what you need to know. Every now and again, minions will spawn and begin their death march toward the other side of the map in all 3 lanes. Once they come in contact with any sort of opposing force, be it enemy minions, a defense tower, or an enemy champion, they will attack it until either they die or kill it, and continue to move forward repeating the process. As a champion, it's your job to help them along, using them to take down defense towers and eventually the enemy base's inhibitors and the core structure that ends the match, the Nexus. You must follow the path of one of these lanes, and you cannot kill or even target subsequent structures in the path until the prior towers have been destroyed. So those of you who like playing stealthy sappers in RTS games are completely SOL. You may think this minion babysitting is useless, especially at later levels, but you will need them at least for a distraction. It doesn't matter how badass you think you are, it's rare you will get to the point that you could take down a defense tower by yourself. Well, there are certain champions that, if properly equipped, could perform this task if you really wanted to, but it's hardly the most viable option. Of course, all along the way, champions from the other team will try to take you down as well, and the game becomes a push and pull of strategy, knowing when to go in for the attack and when to back away, and where to go when you're needed.
Sure, there are other ways to play and strategies I didn't cover, but as I said, the basic concept.
There are tutorials, and I highly advise you play them if it's your first time. As you play, you'll generate a small amount of gold, earning larger bursts for killing minions, other champions, and destroying enemy towers. This gold is used to purchase items that can give your champion an edge in combat. When starting out, you'll have a small amount you can use to purchase 1 or more starter items from the shop, and revisit the shop once you've earned enough to purchase better upgrades. Right-click to move to where your cursor points, or to target and attack an enemy. Use your skills as you unlock them by pressing them on the action bar or the hotkeys provided. Different skills have different targeting systems and effects, so read up on them before you play. You'll also notice that your champion always starts out at level 1, and unlike gold, this isn't earned automatically. You'll need to actively fight minions and champions to earn levels. With each level, you earn a point to upgrade one of your 4 champion skills. Each champion has 4 skills to use in battle, similar to the action bar in World of Warcraft, and hotkeyed to Q, W, E, and R. R is reserved for the champion's ultimate, which is usually a powerful skill with a high cooldown, but there are always exceptions, like Kog'Maw's Living Artillery attack, which refreshes very quickly, but costs a large amount of mana as a trade-off. The first point you can place on an ultimate skill is available when your champion reaches level 6. A champion's maximum level in-game is 18. Now you're probably going to die, quite a bit. It's part of the game, and yes, while there are people who can get through a match death-free, it's not the complete end of you, and it's perfectly accepted, as long as you didn't try to Leroy a tower at level 1. Then you're just stupid. Death is just a setback. You're put into a downtime as you wait to respawn back at base, but you can make good use of your time by checking out the death report to see who killed you and how. You can also look around the map to check on how the battle is going, or you can shop and purchase items when dead, so you can come back to life even more powerful.
I just like to think of death in this game as a much-needed break.
Of course, how you play and what you need to do relies on the champion you choose. When starting out, you might just pick one that looks cool to you, but you'll easily run into players who could tell you the name, stats, and playstyle of any of the 80-plus champions in this game to date, just by glancing at their avatar. This is the new Pokemon. New champions arrive fairly regularly, about once every 2 weeks. In addition to that, the champions that you're allowed to pick from the start change up every week. You can select from 10 at a time, but if you want to keep one, you'll have to purchase them in one of 2 ways. I'll talk about that in the cash shop. Champions seem to follow basic archetypes, such as melee, defense, support, ranged, and magic, with combinations of each abound. While some champions may feel and play similar to others, none ever feel like outright clones of each other. In addition to basic stats about health and strength, you'll also notice terms next to some champions that often refer to their intended strategy. Here's a few examples. A pusher is a champion that charges forward with the minions in order to gain ground and destroy more structures within a lane. A carry is a champion that starts weak, but can become quite powerful as long as they're protected by other teammates. A jungler is a champion that heads off the attended lanes and into the jungle area in search of the enemies and buffs that lurk within, as well as attacking champions that would wander into it, as well as head into any lanes that they are needed. An assassin is one that waits in the shadows or hidden grassy areas in order to gank unsuspecting and unprepared junglers and pushers.
You can only choose one champion per team, so if one of your teammates picks the champion you wanted to pick, well, you're gonna have to pick someone else. Or you could just quit that match in a fit of rage, like so many others I've seen. Get used to this. Seriously, get used to it.
League of Legends is abbreviated as LOL among its fans. Unfortunate implications aside, notice the lowercase o. This is League of Legends, and this, or this, is Laugh Out Loud. We clear? Oh, and while I'm on topic, this stands for World of Warcraft. It is not some fancy, neat new way to write the word WoW.
Every time I see a forum post or a comment that reads, "Amazing find! Wow! Just wow!" I can't help but read it as, "Amazing find! World of Warcraft! Just World of Warcraft! Stop being stupid!"
Okay, back on track. As I mentioned repeatedly, this game's community has one hell of a bad reputation. Personally, I don't find this surprising, given the nature of the gameplay, but to be honest, I didn't run into too many who played the game that were outright jerkish to me. At least outside of the game. I got dozens of emails and requests from players offering their advice on how to play and willing to play alongside me. Of course, playing blindly alongside others brings about a whole different animal, and from what I've heard, the higher your level, the harsher the people are toward you. There's plenty of instances of rude players being what I refer to as overly helpful. This is where a player needs to tell you how to play, and if you don't follow by their exact rules and get every exact equipment piece they instruct you to get, then there's no hope for you. I've seen some shit. There are instances, many instances, of people playing the whole learn-to-play noob card so commonly seen in online games. In normal PvP matches, opposing players won't be afraid to boldly announce how terrible another player is, and your teammates aren't afraid to join the fray if they agree. I do find it hilarious that 9 times out of 10, the worst players, who don't even remotely perform well or as a team, are the first to bark orders at you. It's Eden Eternal's instances all over again. Oddly, though, they only really want to talk when they get mad. Half the time you'll see little more than mid-MIA or Sona go bot. As like a lot of fast-paced online games, the language has devolved into simple commands. That, or they'll just repeatedly and annoyingly ping the map. Much unlike MapleStory, Riot Games is doing its best to curb this kind of shit, offering rewards to players for reporting bad behavior, and often holding contests to encourage camaraderie among the players. There's even an oath you can take on the main page called the Summoner's Code that tells Riot you will, in a summarized version of the list, not to be a total dick. Not accepting the oath will push any user-created content often used in contests to the bottom of the list. Haters still gonna hate, so the tutorial offers you the ability to report players for horrid behavior. It sends the entire chat log to the tribunal, where other players can review the behavior and decide the fate of the player. You must be a level 30 summoner to access this area of the game, however. Fair and correct judgments offer many a reward for your efforts. The outside community already has its fair share of memes and image macros, but mostly you'll see the typical MMO/online game raging about who was buffed and who was nerfed. Nothing out of the norm here. I'll go over the different game types here, as while the core ideal remains the same, the strategy changes with your map and mode. First up is the normal 5v5 PvP Summoner's Rift. In this map you'll have 3 lanes, referred to as top, middle, or bottom, or top, mid, and bot. So in the case of the examples I gave above, mid-MIA means the enemy champion has left the middle lane and is not seen on the map, and Sona go bot means that the summoner playing as Sona should head to the bottom lane. The overarching goal of Summoner's Rift is to destroy all the enemy towers in the lane to clear a path to destroy the Nexus. Since there are only 5 champions on a team and 3 lanes, the common practice is to send teams of 2 into the outside lanes and a single player into the middle one. Of course, this isn't the absolute rule, as some teams may send a player into the jungle, or a majority of their force into the one lane to gain an early push. It all depends on the team. Summoner's Rift also features a version that you can play against AI bots with 2 difficulties. Beginner bots are complete pushovers and good just to get a feel of a champion, while intermediate bots provide more of a challenge and they aren't prone to making the kind of mistakes that human players would, and have a completely inhuman reaction time, although it's pretty easy to hide from them in grass. The other lane style match is the 3v3 map Twisted Tree Line, a quicker condensed map with only 2 lanes. Same rules apply as Summoner's Rift. The most different map is called Dominion, where instead of branching lanes in a destructible nexus, you capture 5 tower points on the map and vie for constant control over them, which quickly drains the health of the opponent's nexus. Once the nexus of points run out, the match is over. In this map, the tower points are located in one large circle, making for an intense and fast battle. Finally, there's Custom Mode, which allows you to choose the amount of players on a map of your choice, allowing for 3v3 Summoner's Rift matches or even one-on-one bouts. If at any time you feel like you're losing a match and it's not worth fighting, you can choose to surrender, and the majority vote of your team decides to go through with it or not. With me, win or lose, I just like to watch the Nexus explode.
If you have any kind of circle of friends on the internet, chances are you know someone who plays this game. It's a lot more popular than the community gives it credit for. Never before have I played a game so popular that was this unaware it was popular.
This is one of the nicer cash shops I've seen, as with most purchasable items, they can be bought in one of two ways. With RP, or Riot Points, the points you trade cash for, or IP, aka Influence Points, in which you earn as you play matches. There are items you can only buy with RP, but they're usually niceties and cosmetic items, like skins for your champions, changing your summoner's name, or items to boost your XP and IP gains from matches. You can purchase runes here, but they can only be bought with your earned IP. Some players suggest to wait until level 20 to really start investing in runes, as that's when you're granted access to the best quality runes, especially if you have very few champions or haven't settled on a few favorites yet. If you want to get RP points, they do suffer from Microsoft Point Syndrome, with an added twist of getting different denominations depending on how you pay for them. There's even an option to charge points to your cell phone bill via text message.
I can't tell if that's awesome or really messed up.
Of course, the thing you'll want most are new champions. As I stated earlier, only 10 champions are free to play at a time, and every week the cycle changes. If you happen to like playing as a certain champion that is free to play for that week, you'd best purchase them before they get switched out. Champion prices range from $450, which can usually be earned in about 2 matches or so, to $6,300, usually given to the newest champions. RP-wise, the range goes from 208 to 975 points. Once you have unlocked a champion, you have the option of getting a purely cosmetic skin for the character. Most skins just give an alternate look to that character, like a version of Sona that looks like a Greek muse, or Kog'Maw as a butterfly. Some skins called legendary skins even change the voice clips of a character, like a version of the Viking Olaf called Brolof, who wears a beer helmet, a polo shirt with an upturned collar, wields an axe made from a case of beer, and talks like this.
Yo, summoner. Summon me like 6 hot chicks. Stat! I'm OP? Your mom is OP. You can't arrest me! My dad owns a dealership!
You can really tell the developers had a lot of fun making this game.
Now, if you're still not keen on getting no permanent champions right out of the gate, I have a tip for you. Once you've signed up and signed in to League of Legends, you can subscribe to the Riot Games YouTube channel to get Alistair and an alternate skin for him completely free. You can also like League of Legends on Facebook to gain permanent access to the champion Tristana and one of her alternate skins. Just make sure you head to the League of Legends site first to make sure it works properly. Okay, so it's not an MMO, but hey, it's fun anyway. If you like playing RTS games but kinda sucked at the whole building and micromanaging aspect of them, this might be something you'd be interested in. Here's my final rating. This is a very fun and competitive game and can get quite addicting to play. The variety of champions is vast, and each plays so differently that you might find yourself wanting to try them all. This game is simple to learn and easy to play, but getting good at the game will take practice. If you're not willing to grind out the IP for a higher priced champion, you may find yourself considering the purchase option just to have them all the more sooner. If you want to have a bit of style options to choose from your favorite champions, there's really no option but to pay. If you find yourself wanting a boost to your XP gained or your IP earned to grind out the access to better runes, that's also a varied but pricey option. If you can't stand people being jerks to you or don't like people saying horrible things on the internet, stay the hell away from this game. While the community isn't as consistently nightmarish as it's made out to be, when it does get bad, it gets bad, and it's not going to let up anytime soon. I've stated repeatedly, this is not an MMO, and if this RTS style or MOBA genre doesn't sit well with you, this title probably isn't going to win you over. While there is a variety in gameplay when you choose different champions, when you start looking at the same few maps over and over and realize that nothing really changes, there's a chance you'll get bored pretty quickly. Games can go on for a long time, and you can't just drop in and out, so if you don't want to be tied to a game when it's going on, this might not work out for you.
Next time, I'll be looking at a title that probably nobody cares about, in a genre that I haven't done in quite a long while. Oh, yeah, and I'm going to MagFest on January 5th through January 8th of 2012. Come on by and see me and kick my ass in all sorts of games. I'm actually quite terrible.
By the way, if you haven't been to MMOGrinder.net in a while, the Superhero MMO poll has taken an interesting turn. If you want to get your most interested game to the top of the list for me to review it, head on over to MMOGrinder.net and vote while you can. The poll closes in a little over a week. Also, another special thank you to Mega G Wolf, who spent most of his time helping me along in the game, as well as looking over the script to make sure I didn't say anything entirely too incorrect. Check out his YouTube channel at the listed address. If you want to catch me online sometime, make sure to add Neos to your friends list on League of Legends. Beating me isn't exactly an accomplishment. I'm awful at this game. Beating Mega G Wolf, on the other hand... Hey, gee, thanks for guiding me through this game and all. I probably wouldn't have had much of a grasp on it without your help. Gee, where'd you go?
You're in my domain now, Chaos.
Legendary.